Are you looking for a dessert that's versatile, delicious, quick, and can be easily taken to any sort of summertime gathering? I have the perfect solution for you here. This is my light fruit cobbler. I made mine with strawberries and blueberries, but you can make yours with whatever you would like. And if you'd like to see how this is made, stick around, because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is going to be one of mine. It's for my light fruit cobbler. I figured summer's coming up, there are going to be family gatherings, and this might be the perfect thing to bring or to present at your gathering. Now, I'm going to be using blueberries and strawberries, but you can use any fruit that you want. I was going to do peaches and blueberries, but I could not find any frozen peaches at the supermarket. So I went with fresh blueberries and fresh strawberries. But you can change it up. You're just going to need 5 cups of it. I also recommend, if you are using a larger fruit like peach or strawberry or something like that, plums, what have you, that you cut it into more bite-sized pieces and don't leave them whole. You can see that the strawberries, I basically just quartered them unless they were like really big, and then I cut them into 6 pieces instead. So you don't have to make them too small of a bite. Depends on how you want to do it, but you do want to cut them up if they're larger bits. And you can do this with any fruit. As I said, you can do it once we get into fall. You could do it with apples and cranberries. You could do strawberry and rhubarb. You can do all sorts of things. This is just a base that you can use your favorite fruits for. So let's go over all of the ingredients. As I said, you're going to need 5 cups of fruit. I have 2.5 cups of blueberries here, and I have 2.5 cups of strawberries, cut up strawberries. Now it calls for a cup and a tablespoon of self-rising flour. I never have self-rising flour on hand because I live up north where it's not as common as down south. So I do have to make my own. So I have 1 cup of plain flour here, all-purpose flour. I have a 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Combined, that is going to make our self-rising flour. And just because I do not have a great memory, as many of you may know, I do have it on the side of my flour container if you need to make self-rising flour. So this might be a good way of keeping it on hand in case you need self-rising flour, if a recipe calls for it. And here I have a tablespoon of just plain flour. Since I'm not doing self-rising, I didn't have to mix anything in there, but it would just be 1 cup plus 1 tablespoon of the self-rising flour. I have 1 egg here at room temperature, 2/3 cup of non-fat Greek yogurt at room temperature. I have 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and here I have 1/3 cup of brown sugar replacement and 3 tablespoons. You're going to need that divided. Part is going to go into our dough for the top, part is going in with the fruit. Now you could, if you wanted to, use regular granulated, but I think that the brown sugar replacement gives it a nice flavor. But if you only have plain, you can't find the brown sugar, just go for the granulated sugar replacement. It's not going to make that big of a difference, just a slight difference in the taste and a little bit in the texture. Because brown sugar tends to make things a little softer, where granulated sugar can make things a little crispier. So there's just a slight texture difference there, but it's probably going to be so minor you won't even notice. Anyway, that does it for our ingredients. Let me shuffle a couple things around and get started. This is going to go fairly quickly, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I do have my oven preheated to 425 degrees. This is going to go into a fairly hot oven. And we are going to put the berries in before we put the topping on. And that is because the berries won't need to cook, get some of those juices released, and we don't want the topping to overbake while the fruit's doing what it needs to do. So we're gonna give them a little jump start. First, I'm going to mix my berries all together, the strawberries and the blueberries. You can see that the strawberries are a bit bigger than the blueberries. They don't have to be matchy-matchy. You just want something bite-sized. Then I'm going to sprinkle on the flour, and I'll just toss that a little bit. Now what the flour is going to do is once those juices start to release, it's going to help them to gelatinize, to become less liquid and a little thicker, so that we don't have a soupy mixture once we get that in there. I'm going to add in the lemon juice, the 3 tablespoons of sugar replacement, and the 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm just going to toss this all together now. We're trying to get the sugar broken up and melted down and dispersed throughout. Now some of it is going to melt when it's in the oven, obviously, but this way some of the juices from the berries will help dissolve it and make it evenly dispersed. Okay, so that can go out of my way. I've got my 9x9 baking dish here. You could use a smaller one if you need to. If you didn't have a 9x9, it'll just make them a little thicker. But I'm just going to put this in here. You don't have to spray it or anything because nothing's really going to stick. And I'm just going to pat this out fairly evenly. Okay, so now that this is evenly dispersed, I'm going to put this in the oven for 10 minutes while we then work on our topping. Be right back. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do for the dough topping is make my self-rising flour, just adding the salt and the baking powder and just whisk that together. Now you'll notice that I do have the dirty bowl that I mixed the berries in. And the reason for that is we're not gonna mess up a bunch of dishes. We're gonna get some flavor that was left from the mixture of the berries in there. And that's what we're going to use as part of our dough flavoring. So I'll move the flour aside for now, bring in our dirty bowl. I'm gonna start with my egg because I wanna beat that. If you had beaten it a little bit beforehand, you obviously wouldn't have to do this part, but I just want to break up that egg a little bit and get it more homogeneous. Then I'm going to add in the brown sugar, break that up a little bit. I don't necessarily want to stir it all in yet because it will get very clumpy because there's only the egg there. And add in our non-fat Greek yogurt. Now this is basically a 2-ingredient dough modified to become a more flavorful topping for our cobbler. And I'm just going to take this and whisk all of this together until it's a unified mixture. Okay, so that looks pretty good. There are a few little lumps of the brown sugar in there, but that's going to be fine. Once it gets into the oven, it will be melted. And now we're going to bring in our flour and we're going to use our spatula this time because you don't want to overmix this. You just want to stir this together until it just forms a dough and you don't see any more of the flour. And you'll have to work it kind of like when you do 2-ingredient dough. You'll have to press it down and mix it, but it shouldn't be so bad that you need to use your hands to do it because we did add the egg, which added a bit of moisture. Okay, so I have about 6 minutes left on the fruit. Let me clean a few things up and we'll move on once that comes out. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle. They've been really heating up in there and letting go of some of their juices. The blueberries are a little swollen and the strawberries are starting to give off some of their moisture. So we're going to set this down here, and I always put my pot holders on the edges just to remind me or anyone else if I happen to walk away that this is hot. Now you're going to carefully dollop the topping onto the fruit. Now I have 2 spoons. I'm just going to take a little bit, dollop it on, and this is just going to be very home style, very rustic. You don't want to cover the entire thing. You want some of the fruit to be poking through. That's why it's called cobbler, because it looks like a cobblestone. And let me get this all doled out, and then I will show you where we go from there. Okay, so I'm down to the last bit. I'm just going to kind of cover little spots that might be a little more open than I'd like. And then what we're going to do is just spread it slightly so that you're not trying to cover everything, as I said. You just want to spread it out a little bit more so that when it does rise, it's not just one big puffy piece over that one little section of fruit. You kind of want to merge things a little bit, but as I said, still keep that fruit showing through, because that is the main component of a cobbler, is the way the fruit kind of peeks out from the dough. So just spread this around. As I said, it doesn't have to be too exacting. This is very rustic, and that looks pretty good to me. So now this is going back into the oven, still at 425 degrees, this time for 25 minutes. And then when we come back, I will show you what it looks like and go over all those nutrition facts. Okay, so there you have it. You can see that it's nice and bubbly, and the crust has gotten brown. That's exactly what you want. It's also shrunk in a little bit, but it's got that nice cobblestone look that you were looking for. And as the bubbling starts to die down, you can see a little bit how the fruit has thickened somewhat. It'll thicken a bit more as it cools. You don't have to let it cool completely. Just give it like 10-15 minutes so it's not scalding hot, and then you can serve it. But there you have it, my light fruit cobbler. This will make 6 to 8 servings if you were feeling particularly hungry for a nice sweet treat. You could have 1/4 of this and still be fairly good with your bites, points, and calories. So we have the calculations for 6 or 8 servings, but if you were tempted to eat 1/4 of this, it would only be 3 Better Balanced bites or old Blue Points. I'm on the Healthi Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, but hopefully you can figure out from there where your bites or points would be. I didn't do all the calculations for 1/4 of this just because that's not what I am serving. But if you were doing 1/4 of this, the calories would only be 266, so not too bad for a dessert. But I'm going to give you the bites, points, macros, and calories for 6 servings and then for 8. So for 6 servings, this would be 2 bites. And if you were following calories, the calories would be 178. And if you're following macros, the fat would be 1.5 grams. The carbs would be 54 grams. The fiber would be 3.6 grams. The protein would be 6.8 grams. And that's if you're doing this as serving 6. If you wanted to spread it out a little bit more and serve 8, it's still going to be 2 Better Balanced bites or Blue Points. And if you're following calories, the calories for 8 servings would be 133. And if you're following macros, the fat would be 1.1 gram. The carbs would be 40.5 grams. The fiber would be 2.7 grams, and the protein would be 5.1 grams, and that is for 8 servings. So I hope that you enjoyed this recipe and this video, and if you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet and you are looking for recipes that can help you on a weight loss journey. Share any of my videos if you think there's someone out there who would appreciate the content, and hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. I do have a video coming out next Tuesday that is part of a summer weight loss collaboration that is not my typical video, so if you hit the notification bell, that would pop up. And this would be a great summertime treat to take to any sort of gathering, and make sure that you had something on hand that you could eat without feeling too guilty about it. Top it with a little fat-free Ready Whip, a little fat-free Cool Whip. It's delicious. Now this recipe is on my blog. It's been on there for a while now. I was scrolling through trying to see what recipes I haven't done a video for yet, and I was actually surprised that this hadn't been done before. But I'm getting to the tail end of those recipes, so I'm gonna have to start looking elsewhere or start developing more. But as I said, it will be on the blog, and I will link directly to this recipe down below, as well as to the blog itself. Also down there are links to my Amazon storefront. If I used anything that interests you, it may be there. Also my Built Bar rewards, my Fetch rewards, and my social media. Here is my Instagram handle if you'd like to follow me over there. And there are 2 Facebook groups that I am part of. One is mine, Recipes with Roy, and the other one is Finding Our Way, W-E-I-G-H. And that one I co-admin with Jennifer Lynn from the Jennifer Lynn channel, as well as Bree Coleman from Balancing Life with Bree. So join us over there for lots of great tips, tricks, recipes, support, and people. So now that this has had a little time to cool off while I was chatting with you and giving you those nutrition facts, I think it might be time for a little treat. So until next time, bye.